Hi everybody, happy Valentine's Day. We're going to give everybody a little while to come in and log on so that you can be a part of our real talk. Are you excited tonight?
I am so excited about our topic tonight. You don't want to miss this. Get your friends, family, everybody needs to come sit and watch this tonight.
And I want you guys to do what I'm getting ready to do, which is share this video on your page so that everybody that's watching can get notified that we're going live. So I'm going to go to my relationship movement and I am going to share this video on my personal page. And I'm going to ask that you guys share this video on your page so that your friends get to be a part of this discussion tonight, okay? I'm going to give everybody a second to do that.
Hit share, share, share. Get everybody on.
Share, share, share.
And happy Valentine's Day to you tonight.
We got our love colors on.
That's right. And you're probably asking, where is Lawrence? That's a good question.
That's a great question. Where is our enlightenment specialist?
Where is the man of the hour? We cannot do this without the male perspective.
All right, guys, we're waiting on you guys to join us live. Uh-oh.
I think I hear him.
We think we hear somebody. Maybe not.
Do we get to talk about Friday night?
Yes, let's talk about Friday night. You talk to them about it. Friday night, we had our live pilot show, Fake Love. And listen, it was phenomenal.
It was amazing. Shouts out to everybody that was in the audience who participated in our live pilot that night. We had a great audience, great participation, and we just thank you all for being there, for being a part of our My Relationship movement and joining us that night.
Yeah, a lot of you guys went live and posted your pictures and videos, and you know, we were excited about going back and watching it. We were like, oh my goodness, that happened. That was funny. And so it was great. We actually have pictures from that night, and so we're going to be posting an album very, very soon this week so that you guys can see kind of what happened, a lot of the magic that was happening, some really candid shots of everything. Thank you just to everybody that sponsored things. There's a post on our page that shouts out to everybody. And then let's tell them where we're going to be Friday.
Ooh. Friday at 1 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. If you're at work, you need to DVR it. You need to make sure at 1 o'clock you are recording the Greg Davis Show.
That's right.
On the Word Network.
On the Word Network. So we are so excited to be traveling there. We're excited that our team will be there talking about My Relationship movement. And you guys have been so great with supporting us. So we just want to make sure that you keep doing this. Make sure you spread the word. A lot of you guys have shared our flyer and let people know that we're going to be there. But at 1 o'clock, that's when the show is going to be on. So pass the word. If you've shared the flyer, go back and add 1 p.m. Tune in live on Facebook.
We definitely want you to join us.
Definitely.
And we thank everybody for just hitting share, hitting share, hitting share. Thank you for sharing us with your friends and your family. We just really appreciate it.
We're waiting for you guys, and we're waiting for our other half. I think that's the volume. So you guys come on so that we can get started tonight. Did a volume down. Volume. Our camera people are getting some stuff together in the background. They're figuring out how to get the volume down over there.
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. Got it?
Oh, and another thing we want to do. Remember, we asked them, guys, start sharing your questions with us.
Oh, that's right.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So the only way to do that is inbox us on Facebook. We love hearing from you guys. We love knowing what's going on in your lives. If you've got questions, share those questions with us. You could actually create a topic for a future show.
You really could, and that's really good. You know, Tracy and I'll just get started with this whole thing. A lot of what we like to do is find out what's interesting to you guys, find out what issues you have. A lot of you guys are calling us, you're inboxing us, you're letting us know that there are some things that you want to know about, and we appreciate that. So what we want you guys to do is continue to ask us questions, continue to give us feedback. Even when we finish this show, we're going to go back and we're going to look at the comments, and if you had some questions and have even some insight to some of the things that we're saying, we're going to address it, and that's helping us to build the content for our next show. So we appreciate the love, we appreciate you guys being interactive, and even tonight as we're addressing some things, we want you guys to say some things back to us. We'll be keeping a look at some of the questions or some of the feedback that you may have as we're talking about this, but that's what we're going to do. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started as we're kind of waiting for this thing to take off. We are excited. Again, happy Valentine's Day to all of you guys, and I'm wearing my love shirt, and Tracy has on her red and white. So we are so excited. I came up with something while I was kind of driving today about love, and as we get started about love, I thought it was something that it just kind of spoke volume to me as I was kind of looking at it. And I was looking at my little shirt, and my shirt says love, L-O-V-E. And you know, I just like words. I think sometimes when we get something in our minds, and it kind of reinforces our thoughts. And so I said, you know, what does love mean? We're always talking about love is this and love is that. But I figured out what love meant.
What does love mean?
All right, here we go.
Wait, y'all need to write this down.
Here we go. L-O-V-E. Learning our value every day.
What? Y'all need to write that down.
Listen,
I love that.
Learning our value every day. Let me tell you why that means something. I just came up with this on the way here. Tell you why that means something. When we talk about relationships, we're always talking about loving yourself first. And if you, thank you, I see the lights. What we found out is when you have something, you treat it differently the more you start to value it. Right. The more you start to know how much something cost or what it took to get it, you start being more careful with it. Right. It starts meaning something. If you've ever been handed down, I know Tracy has shared with me, she has some blankets that were made by her grandparents and her grandmother, and they took time and they put love and stuff, and she values it because she knows what it's worth. She knows the value. And so, you know, when she was younger, she probably thought, I got a nice little blanket, that's nice. But as she thought about their lives and what it took for them and what it meant, she started thinking to herself, there's some value behind this. So she started treating it carefully. She put it up. She didn't just take it out all the time. And I'm assuming I'm special to her because when I came over, she said, I'm going to share my blanket with you. And so she valued it. And so the more that you learn somebody's value and the more you learn your value, every single day you start to love yourself and that person and that thing even more. So every day you start thinking, love means learning our value every day. Every day is a new chance to learn something new about yourself. Every day is a new chance to learn something about your children. Every day is a new chance to learn something about your friends, your spouse, your co-workers, the people that you're around all the time. The more you know about them, the more you learn about them, the more you will love them because the more you'll value them. So if you don't take anything else away tonight, learn your value. Learn our value every single day.
And you know the good thing about that acronym, learning our value every day, is this: the O, our, me.
That's right.
Mine.
That's
value.
Right.
It starts with me.
That's right.
And so before I can love somebody else,
that's right.
I've got to love me first. I've got to learn me first. Love me first.
That's right.
So love begins with me.
Right.
And you can't love anybody else until you love yourself.
Right.
You can't even give your value, your own value, to somebody else until you know your own value to yourself.
And that's a really, really good observation. And it goes into what we're talking about, love, loyalty, or loneliness. We can't really define things. We can't really know and choose what's the difference if we're really not aware of what they really mean.
Right.
And so value, you know, and even as we talk about, because we're defining already, we're starting with love, and we're defining love. And so what we think is, when we talk about loving ourselves, well, we have to figure out what are those things about us that are worth worth loving. Because a lot of times what happens is when we don't learn our value every day, we allow somebody else to assert value to us. We allow somebody else to say, you're worth this, or nah, you're not worth that. And so sometimes when we don't get the attention we deserve, or we feel like we want from somebody else, we'll say, well, I must not be that valuable, because if I was that valuable, they'd spend more time with me. Or I must not be as valuable as I should be, because if I were valuable, they would be saying positive things and depositing positive things in my life. And so if we don't learn our value every day, we will rely on somebody else to assert value to. Whoa, who is this?
Guys? What's up?
He must have just flown in from Boston or something.
I just came from Bahrain. Abu Dhabi.
We're talking about this great acronym, learning our value every day is what we're saying for love. And we're just kind of talking about how we value ourselves. And if we're defining love, and we're going to let you kick it off, but we kind of went on in and got it warm a little bit. Talk about love. And you wrote this great book, and we want you guys to know that this book is available. This really, really great book that says, if it's love, it will last. And so who better to talk about if it's love? And so I think just by the fact that he said, if it's love, I think that means he has some insight and some wisdom about what love is and what love is not. So as we talk about figuring out if it's love, if it's loyalty, or if it's loneliness, we're going to let the enlightenment specialist tell us what love is and is not.
And we're also going to throw in a little lust.
Oh, that's great. All righty. Over to you.
And actually, in all honesty, I appreciate you guys coming on again tonight for this conversation. Let me just deal with 3 different types right now. There's more, but I want to deal with filial, which is where we get the word Philadelphia, which is like a brotherly love. And then you have the agape love, which is unconditional. That's kind of love that God shows for us. But when you start talking about relationships between husband, wife, significant others, you're now talking about eros, meaning erotica. You're talking about love that deals with the sexual. And so when you start talking or asking people about the definition of love, you're going to get many different definitions based upon where a person was brought up, based upon what a person has learned about love. So you're going to always have various definitions of love. And so realistically, I tell you what love is not. Love is not lust. And we're going to actually deal with this a little bit deeper, but I want to really drive this point home that love can never be demonstrated, never be given to you if you don't first love yourself. And you'll hear us continuously talk about this because the one thing you want to do, as Elisa just said, the acronym for love is learning our value every day. Learning our value every day. And you can do that by spending time with self first. Because most times, especially during this time, Valentine's Day, we want to make sure that we're trying to find someone to spend time with us. But what better day to spend time with yourself, to find out who you are, to learn your value every day, so that you can in turn identify and smell love when it's coming your way. And I'm going to let the ladies take over from here, because I want to really come back in this a little later, because there's a whole lot more I want to talk about. But you guys had a great conversation going already, and I just flew in from Dubai, and so I'm gonna let them take over while I go and refresh my mind right quick.
So why is it so hard to identify love when it comes to us as individuals? Like, we can always look at somebody and say, ooh, I love the way she carries herself, or ooh, I love the way he, talks to people, or ooh, I love the way that they, deal with their mom and their children. And then, but when it comes to me, it's always, I love me. I like some things about me. Why is it that we have that issue when it comes? Because I think this helps us identify love, loneliness, or loyalty in relationships, when we can kind of figure out what is that hindering thing that keeps us from identifying love when it comes to self-love. What is that?
Right. I think part of our problem is that we're so afraid to spend time with ourselves that we can't really identify who we really are. What do we like about ourselves? What don't we like about ourselves? What makes us special? And what makes us special to ourselves? What makes us special to someone else? You can't give somebody else what you don't know about yourself.
That's right.
So you're sitting here and you're saying, well, I like the way I dress, or I like the way I carry myself. But how do you really love yourself? And if we think about it, we think of it in terms of what we do for other people.
There you go. That's it. That's exactly it.
Right. So what if you're doing all of these things for other people to make them quote unquote love you, then what do you do for yourself?
That's good. You know, I know a lot of people that have been in marriages long term, or even with relationships, or even friends, that they spend so much of their time just supporting or accommodating the person that they're with, that they don't establish an identity in and of themselves. And because it's Valentine's Day, because we deal with a lot of people, have been single and deal with a lot of people that are single, in that waiting time, in that time where you're identifying, you know, what you want. I know so many times a lot of people mess up because they're too busy saying, this is what I want in somebody else. Or, you know, oh, what if they like football? Or what if they like this? Or what if they like to go there? Let me start conditioning myself to change, to accommodate them. So then, and immediately if they meet somebody and that person is a sports fanatic and you're not, automatically, well, let me go just trying to change and get, you know, and so a lot of times then when it gets into that loyalty part, or when it gets into the loneliness part, a lot of those ties are there, not because they were already there, because we just created them, because we skipped the step of self-love. We skipped the step of saying, let me reinforce who I am. Let me reinforce what I want. We talk about this in other shows, our non-negotiables, the things that we're not going to settle for, the things that we're not going to accept. A lot of times, because we're not spending time loving on ourselves, we don't even have that list. And so we wait until we get into these awful relationships. We wait until somebody's borrowed all the money they can borrow from us, and then we don't have any. We wait until somebody's cheated on us so bad that we don't know what we really have. We've waited. We've lost all of that. We've waited, and now all of a sudden we want to say, I don't want that anymore, but here goes that loyalty. But, you know, I've already committed to being there, but I've already obligated myself to sticking it through. I created this mess for myself, you know, and then it goes into the loneliness. But, you know, I spent so much time with that person. I might as well. I might as well, because I don't want to start back over. There's that loneliness. And so all of these things, love, loyalty, and loneliness, they all kind of go right together, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I agree with that for sure. I really want to drive home this point as well. One of the things that I have noticed with individuals is we spend so much time also trying to find out who we are, that when we find ourselves in a relationship, we try to fit in with that person based upon what that person likes, as you were alluding to earlier. But the one thing that I've always discovered is that when you try to fit into somebody, to fit in to be who somebody else wants you to be, when that relationship goes bust, or when that relationship goes sour, what ends up happening is that you're lost now, because you're trying to figure out, okay, what happened? How did I get here? And it's because you spent so much time trying to fit in with somebody else, instead of identifying who you are, who you want in your life. And I think when you do that, it's kind of like if a person meets somebody and the person who they meet likes to go out to clubs. And so all of a sudden, this person here, they don't necessarily like the club, but because he wants to go clubbing, they go club. But then realistically, if the situation goes bad, then this person now is trying to figure out, why did I do that anyway? Because that's not really who I am. But you got to identify who you are, what you like, what you dislike, what you will not settle for, so on and so forth, so that when that person comes along, you already have your trademark per se, or you already have your identity of what you're looking for, and then that makes it easier for a person to gravitate towards you. Because if I don't know who I am, if I don't know what I want, then I'm going to find a person who treats me in that way. They treat me like I don't know what I want. And so unless you're secure with who you are and know exactly what you want, you're going to continue to go through those types of situations.
Well, I have a question, and this came from one of our viewers, one of our followers, and it fits kind of into this. So let's say that a person didn't spend enough time figuring out who they are and loving on themselves, and so they allowed another person to define them. And so let's say they were that person who started dealing with somebody who's, you know, a heavy drinker or a heavy smoker or a heavy clubber, or a person that, you know, like for them to dress a kind of way or do certain things, and then that person start growing and maturing and changing. They start loving themselves more and start becoming more secure in themselves. How do they then go back to the person that they are with, you know, that they're loyal to, and they're trying to avoid being lonely or alone? How do they go back into that relationship to say this is not who I am anymore. I've grown past some of this. A lot of this stuff I did because of my age, or a lot of this stuff I did because it was just me. But now that we're involved, I want to change. And then what happens when that person says, well, that's not what I want. I want this kind of person. And you know, I don't want this person. And even if you're saying, but the things that I was doing before was detrimental, and they say, yeah, but that's what I want. How do you negotiate? You know, what, because a lot of viewers have been saying things about what happens in that situation when you've outgrown some of the things that were not beneficial, when you decided to become an investment and you've loved yourself past those things.
I like growing plants. I have this beautiful plant in my office, and one of the things I noticed is as the plant was growing and people were complimenting me on how beautiful the plant was, because I was watering it, and I was watering the leaves and wiping the dust off and making sure it looked beautiful. One thing I noticed is that the plant stopped growing and started turning brown. And I kept trying to figure out, well, I haven't changed anything on the plant. I watered it, I fed it plant food, made sure it had plenty of sunlight and everything. And I kept watching it and watching and watching. So I just happened to be having a conversation with my grandmother, who loves to grow plants. And she says, Tracy, it's probably time to change the pot. The plant got too big for the pot. The pot that you have the plant is too small.
That's good.
So now, where it was growing and thriving, it can't, because it has nowhere else to grow.
Wow, that is
It has
powerful.
nowhere else to grow. So you think about it. I went in, I got a bigger pot, I put it in the bigger pot, and it looked kind of big at first. My grandma said, get 2 pot sizes bigger, because if you take real good care of it, it's going to continue to grow.
That's right.
So that's what I did. I got 2 pot sizes bigger, and I thought, oh my God, that's too big. It doesn't even look right. And as the plant continued to grow, not only was it growing up, but it was growing out.
Oh, that is great, Dr. T.
Thank you.
So even with that, I think what happens is, how do you identify love and what love is and what isn't? If something stagnates your growth, if you start to get to a place where you are thriving and when you're learning, Lawrence always talks to us about finding somebody that's going to kind of evaluate you and that's going to kind of, you know, trigger you and help you see different things and grow and get some new revelations and expand yourself, as she was saying. But if you get to a point where you're expanding and the person that you're with, whether they're your friend, whether they're your relative, whoever they are, and they're saying, I don't, you know, because when you grow, when you start to flourish, listen, people pay attention to you.
Sure.
When you start to bloom,
and
people pay attention. And we were having this discussion amongst ourselves a couple of days ago. People can be really insecure, and their insecurity doesn't come out a lot of times. As long as you're withered and in the same place and you're not growing, nobody's looking, oh, they're just fine. They're happy to give you a little piece of water and, you know, turn you toward the sunshine every now and again. But all of a sudden, when your roots are firm and you start to love on yourself and grow and bloom, all of a sudden you start realizing there's some insecurities, and I'm going to let Lawrence speak to that a little bit. There's insecurities that pop up, and then all of a sudden you start seeing people trying to stunt your growth. And when you start feeling somebody trying to stagnate you, if you've decided that, let's just take clothes for example. Say you were a person that dressed a certain kind of way, and then you had children, and then a light bulb came on, or you got a different job, and a light bulb came on in your head that said, you know what? I would like to be taken a little bit more seriously. So I'm going to change the way that I dress because I want to be perceived differently. But then you have somebody that's saying, you know, because now you're getting attention and people are saying, wow, well, who are you? This is somebody I want to know. And then you have this one person that's saying, I like the way you, the old you, the way you were doing it before. Now you're getting a little bougie. I don't know what you think you're doing. And then but you're saying, but I'm feeling a little better, you know, in the way that I'm doing.
Feeling more confident.
More confident. And then, but they're trying to put your roots have expanded, but they're trying to keep you into the pot. Why? Because the little container is what they're able to maintain. As long as you can fit sometimes in a person's mold, as long as you can fit on the windowsill, it's manageable. And so you have to be careful. How do you identify what love is and what isn't? If something's causing you to stagnate your growth, if something's causing you to dim down that light, then 9 times out of 10, that might not just necessarily be love, but it might be misplaced love. And I want you to speak a little bit, because I know, you know, we always like to say what is and what is not, but and you can speak from a male perspective. I think a lot of times men perhaps show us something that, you know, that might start off looking like, you know, oh, he's been so protective of me, you know, and a lot of times it feels like, oh, that just feels so nice to have somebody protective of me. But then all of a sudden when your flowers start blooming, it starts to feel territorial and possessive. But then we say, no, it's love. No, it's love. He's blowing up my phone, and when I don't answer, he shows up at my house because that's love. Because he was just worried about me. And let's talk about how, because that's a thin line.
That is good. Actually, it's been a few years ago, probably 8-9 years ago. I was talking to a friend of mine, and it was one of those same type of situations where they were blowing up the phone, always want to know where you are, what you're doing, and I wasn't trying to throw shade or anything, but I was saying to her, I said, listen, I said, anytime you're in a relationship where you're always being watched, or a better word is stalked, that is not love. And really, she was like, well, he just likes to know where I am and make sure I'm safe. I said, no. I said, it starts off looking like that. I said, but that's a real big taste of jealousy. And I said, jealousy always leads to possessiveness, and possessiveness always leads to anger, and anger always leads to some type of abuse, whether emotional or physical. And so women need to learn the signs, because a man who's secure within himself, he's not going to be one that's going to always be hovering over you, who you're talking to, where you're at, how come it took you so long to get from the store. Those are signs of a person who has an identity crisis himself.
There you go.
That's the sign of a person who has some great insecurity within himself, whether it was a relationship where he got cheated on, so now he's taking it out on the next person.
That's a good one.
And I'm saying to the ladies, especially on Valentine's Day, you always want to take a look at the signs that's being sent to you, because you may think it's a sign of protection. He just wants to know that I'm okay. But I'm saying to you, that's a sign of insecurity, and that's going to eventually lead to possessiveness. Or to go a little further, if it's a situation where he's trying to keep you away from your family, don't want you to be around, I got this taken care of, baby, or he wants to take care of the bills. It's going to be a situation in the quick future, in the real quick future, where he's going to try to be manipulative, keep you away from your family, and those are signs of an unhealthy relationship. That's a sign of unhealthy love.
That's good.
That is not a sign of real love.
So, and that leads us right into the whole loyalty conversation. We said tonight is about love, loyalty, or loneliness. And so loyalty kind of says a lot of times, you know, we get this thing where we have this self-sabotaging behavior, sometimes syndrome, where we'll see something that is hurtful or detrimental or not beneficial, but we'll feel like we'll mix up something that's obligatory to something that we should be faithful to, which is what loyalty is. And so, you know, for instance, let's talk about a person that you've had children with, whether you're still with them or not. You may feel there's loyalty there because we have children together. And so a lot of times it doesn't translate though as what if that person, and it could be the woman that's abusive to the man, verbally, mentally, or emotionally, she's pulling back her affections because she's trying to manipulate him. And a lot of women, because we're being real, we don't just, this isn't just a women's movement, this is my relationship movement. And a lot of times men don't have anybody to speak up for them. But there are a lot of times when women can use obligatory relationships, they can use that to get a person to stay loyal to them. A lot of times, and I hate to say this, but there are women that will use children as bait, to use as loyalty, as a pawn, or they will even use this whole knight in shining armor syndrome. You know, there are women, and I'm sorry, we're just going to be real, and ladies, if it's not you, it might be somebody that you know. They'll use this whole, oh, I need somebody to come save me kind of thing, because they know that it plays on a man's natural instinct to protect and to save the day and to do something. And so then the man will start to feel like, well, if I'm not here for her, what is she going to do? How is she going to make it if I'm not taking care of her? So then now they're in the relationship, and that's manipulation, and that never is going to have a good benefit, because now you don't know if that person is with you because they truly desire to be with you, or because they just feel like, oh my goodness, what is she going to do? And so ladies, if you are into that, if that's something that you have participated in, or that's something you're thinking, well, the only way I can, get him to stay loyal to us in this relationship is I got to remind him about his obligations to me and these kids. Well, if you guys are not together, the obligation is to his children.
Right.
That's his obligation.
Right.
And the sad part about it is, and women, we don't like this, but it's true. The sad part about it is men will not be manipulated. A lot of times, once they know they're being manipulated, they'd rather cut off completely before they'll keep going. I know so many men right now that would love to be in relationships with their children, but because they will not deal with the manipulation of the mother, they've just taken their hands off. And now who's the victim?
Right.
It's the children. Because here is something that's trying to be, you're trying to birth loyalty out of a situation that's only obligatory. There's only obligation, but you're trying to make a person loyal to you, or you're trying to always express a need. Well, you got me comfortable in this lifestyle, and you got me used to this. You spoiled me. Now you're obligated to take care of this and to keep nurturing this foolishness. Well, it is foolishness, because there again, that's not love. That's not even loyalty. That's just this manipulation by obligation. Let's speak to that.
That is manipulation. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is, like you said, the children end up suffering in the long run. And unfortunately, also what ends up happening is the man becomes the victim. And we'll let Lawrence speak a little bit more about this. But here, and we actually had a gentleman Friday who talked about this.
Sure did.
Who started out being this wonderful guy.
That's right.
Who was raised and reared to love women, respect
That's
women.
right. He sure did.
And ended up getting a woman who manipulated him.
Yes.
And didn't treat him as the king that he deserved to be treated.
That's right.
And so what ended up happening, and what does usually end up happening for men, is now they become the joker that we don't want.
Oh, wow.
Because there's two people inside of you. There's the king and there's the joker. And whoever you talk to, that's who comes out. And so now, unfortunately, because he's been treated like a joker, because he's been treated disrespectful, what does he go out and do? He does the exact same thing. The cycle continues. So now, instead of treating women like queens, because he is a king, he treats women second-class citizens, because now he's a joker.
See?
His heart has been broken when he was trying to do the right thing. And so now he has an issue of trust.
And so now is this where, and a lot of women are always saying, men can't be loyal. I know there was this popular song. Y'all know I love this pop culture stuff about teenagers. And they said these girls ain't loyal.
Yeah.
And it was a man that was talking about it. But then on the other end, you have a lot of women that says, but the men aren't loyal. And but like as Dr. T was just saying, though, a lot of times what's happening in the relationship causes these men to act out in this way. So is it really that men aren't loyal or can't be loyal?
No, I definitely think that it's twofold, if you will.
Okay.
I do believe that there are many men that can be loyal, but I think that what we have to initially do, and as I'm going to always say this, is deal with the undisciplined spirit that we had as kids.
Oh,
but just to go a little further, because again, we think that, and I like saying this because it's a fact, it's extremely difficult being married, single, or whatever, for a man sometimes and sometimes people say, well, if he loves her, he wouldn't cheat. I don't know if I would totally, and I'm saying this from a pastor perspective, from a preacher's perspective, I think that sometimes that undisciplined spirit that young men developed at an early age psychologically caused him to not be loyal, because he was taught that you have to have more than one girlfriend. And so when he gets into a relationship where he does have a good, solid woman, temptation will come his way, and that manhood says, I need to know I still got it. I need to know I can still do it. And so it's not because he necessarily does not love her, it's just because that old person, like you said, the two people that's inside of you, you got the one who's trying to remain loyal, and you got the other one who says, man, you need to still know that you still got this, that you still got the game and all that stuff. And so it's hard. I mean, I know brothers agree with me on this. It's hard to keep the old man down. You have to be in a real intimate relationship with God to keep your focus in the right place, because again, to be totally honest with you, women can make it so easy for men to be non-loyal.
Wow.
See, and that's another good point.
Let's be real.
We're being real, right? And that goes back into this love, loyalty, and loneliness, because that's where loneliness plays a part.
Right.
A lot of times, women, and it's good that you went back to that. Women are for the most part natural nurturers. They see something and they want to invest their time and their emotions and their resources in it and see it grow. But really, they're doing that because they want a return on that. They want that coming back to themselves. Right. And so what they're always doing is putting themselves, that self-sacrificing nature, putting themselves to the side and looking, for something else. But a lot of times what happens is women will allow so much disloyalty. They'll allow lust to replace love. They'll allow their loneliness or their fear. And that's one of the other questions that came up from one of our viewers is how do we combat the fear? I'm not happy. I'm not comfortable. I'm settling. This is not what I want. But I don't want to start over. I don't want to be, the fear of what happens when they're, and the sad part about it, and we've been there, we've talked about this, there's a sadness that tells you I'd rather deal with the hell that I know than to face the hell of the unknown. And so sometimes you'll say, this sucks, this is awful, I'm not having a good time, I'm not fulfilled, I'm mentally abused, I'm emotionally abused, I'm being mistreated, I'm not being treated with respect. Right. However, it's familiar. I know what that is.
Let me speak to that for a second.
Speak to that. Help us.
I need to make sure y'all listening to us, so y'all need to hit that screen before I say what I got to say. I ain't seen no love shown. Y'all hit that screen, show some love before I say my next comment. No, on a serious note. I want you to think about this. Most of our families, and I'm saying most African American families, grew up with parents, especially moms, who were loyal because that's what they were taught. Right. They knew the men were in the streets, they knew the men were running around, but their thought process was, as long as he comes home, pays the bills, keeps roof over the head for the kids, so on and so forth. So you had women or moms who stayed in situations because of the kids or because of the commitment of the man to take care of the bills, even though they knew that the man was not treating them as they should have been treated. So you have a lot of millennials, if you will, who have that same sort of mindset. Well, take that back. They don't put up with as much, but they still put up knowing that the situation is not going anywhere, that they're not happy, that they're not getting what they should get, but they stay there because they're afraid of the unknown. And my theory has always been, I don't never tell anybody what to do, but my theory has always been, there's nothing in life that's worth more than your peace. I just don't believe that. And as you start talking about loyalty is fine in its place, but loyalty should never take the place of your peace.
Never.
I like it.
If you can't sleep at night, if you're, you're unhappy, your peace matters.
That's right.
We need to make that a t-shirt. My peace matters.
Cute. Look for it coming soon. But that's true. So what is it about us that causes that fear to allow us to let the loneliness, and you did something at the live show the other night. You talked about the difference, and you did this on our WALB interview as well. You talked about the difference between loneliness and alone. And a lot of people don't understand that there's a difference between loneliness and being alone. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Sure. Alone means that physically you are alone. So if Elisa and Lawrence were not here, I would be alone where I am in this place. Okay? Loneliness, and you could actually be alone in a relationship. If Lawrence, well, we are married, but being married to Lawrence, if he was always on the go, always out of town, always doing other things for other people, we're married, but I am alone a lot. A lot of times he's in other places. That leaves me physically alone. And then there is loneliness. If he's in my presence, but mentally he's not here, he's somewhere else, his attention is at the church, or his attention is on his son, or his attention is on his grandkids, or his attention is on something else. That creates a barrier between the two of us which makes me feel lonely. So you could actually be both in a relationship, both alone and lonely.
Which one of those things drives people to be clingy or to hold on to something? Even, if, say for instance, so say you're with somebody and physically you're with them, physically they come home, they're in the house, the same house as you, but they're not interacting with you, they don't acknowledge your presence, they don't ask about your day, they're not concerned about your well-being, they don't really care about if you ate today or if something's coming up, it's your birthday, they're not really mindful of those things. Is that the feeling of being lonely or alone? And what's the difference? If you're already experiencing that, what's so hard about then just alleviating the issue by itself? Like, if you have a boyfriend and girlfriends, they're dating, and they're saying, I'm just so tired of being by myself, and I'm tired, he's there, but he's not there. Then what's still making them stay there if they're going to be by themselves? I can do bad by myself. What is it then that won't let them just walk out the door? What is that?
Can I tell you something first?
Go ahead.
You need your own talk show. You need your own talk show. Can you answer her question now?
A lot of times people don't want to be alone. It's not the loneliness. They can go and create relationships and go in and create friendships that take care of the loneliness. But a lot of times you have people who just do not want to be physically alone. I come home to an empty house. There's no one to talk to me. There's no one to interact with me. There's no one to anticipate their arrival. Even if it means hell when they arrive, you still anticipate what's to come. I know Lawrence talked about this earlier. Growing up in the 40-somethings, our parents were the generation who didn't physically show love. So when our generation came about, Generation X and Generation Y, we were the generation that said, what does love look like for our generation? Because for our parents' generation, love looked like what Lawrence said. It looked like you take care of the bills, you take care of the kids, you do this, you do this. So a lot of that generation, if you look at the women in that generation, they were alone because the man was out making the money, and they were lonely because when the man was there, he was not interacting with the kids, he was not interacting with the wife. He just walked in the door and that was it. He dropped the money on the table and he kept it moving. So there was the lack of intimacy, both for the mother and father and both for the father and the children. So then you have our generation that came along and said, okay, what does this new definition of love look like for us? Well, you got to think. We watched our mothers not receive affection from our fathers. So what ended up happening with us?
We thought that was okay.
We did. Or we said, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be my own woman.
Right.
Okay, how's that working for you?
That's good.
Because now you're so independent, you're not allowing anybody else to come in, which makes you alone.
Right.
Let me say also, because there are a number of people that I talk to on a regular basis who really are both alone and lonely in a relationship. And my answer to that is, do you see yourself worth more than being alone with somebody and even lonely with somebody than to just sort of regress for a second and ask yourself, am I really valuing who I am to stay in a relationship where I'm both lonely and alone?
Wow. That's good. That's good.
Most of it deals with a lot of security, if you will. They have the security of him taking care of the bills, but when you go on vacation, you got to go with the kids by yourself, or when you go on vacation, you guys are not really talking, or when you go on vacation, you're trying to call your girlfriends and take a girly trip, or whatever the case may be, and it's because you have not come to the point of really valuing yourself enough to know, you know what, if I leave this situation, it's kind of like the comment I made the other night, the quote I made the other night, if your presence doesn't add value to my life, then your absence won't make a difference. And you've got to be comfortable enough in yourself to say to yourself, self, I'm worth more than being alone
That's right.
and lonely
lonely.
in
That's
this
right.
house.
That's good. A lot of, you know, we have lots of friends, and you know, they'll call me lately. They've been calling and saying, you know, I've kind of watched you guys, and I've been doing my own polls on Facebook with kind of my friends asking some questions. And one of my friends that's single was talking about, you know, this in-between time of, you know, a lot of people are talking about speaking, you know, positive things into the atmosphere as it relates to their relationships as they upcoming or anticipating them. I think a lot of what, you know, because we want to take a second to speak to people that are single, is a lot of times in the preparation time, we aren't developing other relationships that will help combat that loneliness. Because, and so what happens is, when we get somebody, we just cling to them and make them. I used to say this a long time ago. I used to tell somebody, I don't really agree with that whole, she's my everything and he's my everything, you know, because I'm a mess and I don't need to be anybody's everything, because there are going to be days where I'm going to be wayward. There are going to be days where I'm going to be dysfunctional. There are going to be days where I'm going to be moody. There are going to be days when I'm going to be, you know, all out there. And so if I'm just your everything, if your whole world, my whole world revolves around you, you know, I'm looking crazy, because my world consists of a whole lot of other stuff, clients and people and kids and obligations that I have and other stuff I gotta do, you know, the relationship movement. And so what happens is, if you center your whole world around this one person, whatever, and this is not just with men and women. I know mothers that do this with their children. Yes. They've decided that you know what, I am just going to live vicariously through this child, and my hopes, my dreams, my ambitions, and they're going to treat but you know, but as we're talking about this, and so there's not room though while they're doing that. There's not room for them to be open to somebody else to come in, because there you have that daughter of yours that's your best friend and girlfriend, and you can't raise her because you're too busy. You know, y'all dressing alike, and I don't mean wearing the same colors and looking cute. I mean y'all are going to the same club together, and you know, and so then there is this perversion, if you will, of relationships. And so a lot of times what happens is, in this in-between time when you're single, you don't take the time to develop healthy, foster wholesome relationships with other people. There should be women who are single that have men that are their friends, that they can talk to and get insight and wisdom from. There should be women that have healthy relationships with other women, whether they're older, whether they're their same age, even whether they're younger, and they're mentoring them. So there should be other relationships that should be going on. If you don't have healthy relationships with your parents or your coworkers, chances are some of those same things that are causing issues are going to transfer when you have a relationship with somebody else.
I used to start a movement called
My Relationship and address help foster healthy relationships. Because these are some things that we miss. We skip these steps, and then we just think, oh, I'm not worried about having friends. As long as I get my man, or I'm not worried about everybody else. When I get this one, because men can be clingy too. Men can just decide, you know, once I get this one woman, I'm just going to suffocate her, and I just want her to be in my pocket, and then we'll pull her out and look at her and then put her back up when it's time. And so we can foster unhealthy relationships, and then we stay in them because we don't know if we're staying in them because we love them, we're loyal to them, or we're just lonely without them.
That's great. Great summary.
Great summary.
I don't know what else to say.
Guys, well, listen, once again, happy Valentine's Day. We hope you have gained some type of wisdom, some enlightenment, some empowerment, some equipment that will help you at least begin the conversation with yourself. And don't ever forget this, like we talked about opening up, that love means what? Learning our value every day. And the reason we say every day is because if you really practice talking to yourself mentally and emotionally, you can evaluate yourself when you get up. How do I feel today? You know, what am I looking forward to today? What am I anticipating today? What am I dreading today? Every single day there's something new that you can learn about yourself. Every single day there's something you can appreciate about yourself. There is a way that you can add value to yourself every single day. And believe me, one thing I know is that as people, we recognize value. We know know the difference between something that's fake and something that is real. We recognize what's authentic, and we'll look at something and we'll be able to tell, and that's not worth a whole lot of money, or I can probably get by with just paying this, or we'll know when, hey, I gotta come out of my pocket with this. My husband's at work, God bless his soul, he's at work. But one thing he always talks about is when something is worth it, when it's something that's gonna benefit him, he doesn't have issues with how much it costs. He's not gonna sit there, I'll sit there and say, that's how much? Ooh, wait a minute, let me think about what else I gotta do. And he'll be saying, listen, do you need it? Is it worth it? If we put this money in it, is it gonna do what it needs to do? And if it is, he's done with that. And so people can recognize when something shows forth its value, nobody minds investing in it. And so if you don't know how to say, if somebody walked up to you and said, why are you valuable? Why should I invest in you? And you don't have a list of things that are substantial that you can name, then it's time to learn. It's time to figure out how to learn our value every single day.
That sounds like homework.
That sounds like homework. Write 5 things down.
At the beginning of the day.
At the beginning of the day.
And at the end.
And at the end, that's good. And at the end of the day, as you're learning our value every day. And I want you guys to come back and post it. Say, hey, I love myself today. I love myself today. I've learned my value. And then figure out what those things are. And then give yourself some affirmations. Now, once again, we ask that you send your love, your prayers, and your support to us on Friday as we travel to Detroit. The Word Network, we're going to be on the Greg Davis Show. It's going to play at 1 p.m. And so you guys go right even now to the Word Network after you leave this show. Go to the Word Network, like them, follow them, so that you'll be able to go in there and see it. We're going to have a link on our page as well. But we would love to see our family, our friends, our supporters on there cheering us on. We see you. We would love to see you guys cheering us on. So, keep us in your prayers, keep us in your thoughts. And also, we want you to continue to follow the movement. Help us, because it's about us fostering healthy relationships with each other. So help us pass this. And you guys have been superb with sharing stuff and helping us pass this movement along. Keep it going. Keep the love going every single day.
On this love day.
On this love day. And before we leave, we have one more piece of affirmation we want to share with you. And you say it to yourself. Are you ready, guys? I am worth the investment. Thank you, guys.
I gotta go catch a flight.
You gotta go catch a flight again.